It takes the wisdom of Yoda to survive the 6th grade. Meet Dwight, a 6th grade oddball. Dwight does a lot of weird things, like wearing the same t-shirt for a month, or telling people to call him Captain Dwight. This is embarrassing, particularly for Tommy, who sits with him at lunch every day. But Dwight does one cool thing. He makes origami. One day, he makes an origami finger puppet of Yoda, and that's when things get mysterious. Origami Yoda can predict the future and suggest the best way to deal with a tricky situation. His advice actually works, and soon, most of the 6th grade is lining up with questions. Tommy wants to know how Origami Yoda can be so smart when Dwight himself is so clueless. Is Yoda tapping into the Force? It's crucial that Tommy figure out the mystery before he takes Yoda's advice about something very important that has to do with a girl. This is Tommy's case file of his investigation into the strange case of Origami Yoda.
Hello, younglings, and welcome back to the Padawan Library, the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast. I'm Levi Paratic, and with me, as always, Tim May.
Hello. Well, you
And
really
today-
slurred my name there together this time.
Tim May.
Yeah.
And I'll try not to slur our guest name, because we have a guest today. Joining us, Franco Asmaeil. Did I say that right?
You did. Thank you.
Okay.
So not pre-rehearsed at all.
Oh man, just
Now,
crushed.
Now, Franco, we have a previous history with you, being that you used to host a podcast called Dawn of the Dad, which I tried to find today. It's not available anywhere, is it?
No, you have to keep paying money to keep it up there.
Yeah, the hosting costs.
And
So.
I think I also lost most of my episodes.
Oh.
Because I thought I backed it up and I hadn't, and I have 3 of my 40, I think. So I'm trying not to dwell too much on that, because I wanted to show it one day to my kids, because I started it when my wife got pregnant. It was basically I would have one person on and they'd talk about how they got into movies and what movies I should show my kids one day. And you guys were on for Star Wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also on for I think Kiki's Delivery Service solo without Levi. I don't think has seen Kiki's Delivery Service.
No, I haven't.
So another one to add to the list that he needs to watch.
I agree. It may shock you to know that somebody has stolen your podcast title, though. When I was looking for on YouTube, I found a podcast called Dawn of the Dad. It's only 4 episodes, and they were from 3 years ago. So
Those jerks.
Yeah, wow. You gotta at least, if you're gonna steal someone's title, you gotta go more than 4 episodes.
So now
my logo was really cool. It was kind of like the font of Dawn of the Dead, and it had blood all over it, but it also had a rubber ducky in it that my friend made, who's a graphic designer. So I bet you this new guy doesn't have such a cool logo.
No, definitely not. So, I mean, it looks like he gave up pretty quickly. So you at least got to 40. He got to 4. So now, when we were on the show, if I remember correctly, because we were talking about Star Wars, and we were talking about when to show your kids Star Wars. And the reason we have you on the show is because I think we told you right around 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Which is that's the current age of your son, right?
Yeah, he's 6. Yeah.
And you've shown him recently, from what we understand.
Yeah, so like 2 years ago, I showed him A New Hope, and he saw it and was into it. And then we showed him Empire, and then halfway through, he was like, "This stuff's too scary." And then, like literally, when Luke and Vader are fighting, but before he gets his hand chopped off. Mm-hmm. So he's like, "You need to turn this off now, or I'm gonna die." And then, and so I'm like, "Okay." And then, like every 3 days, I'd be like, "Are you ready to watch it now? Are you ready to watch it now?" Because I wanted him to see the "I am your father" part, right? Mm-hmm. And he was just like, "Nope." And then so much time passed that he forgot he had seen any of it. And then, we tried again, and this time his sister. Sorry, hold on. I'm a middle school teacher, and I am in my classroom at the end of the day on Friday. So there's the secretary talking.
That's fine.
And so we saw it, and his little sister's about 3.5, and she saw A New Hope with us and my wife, and they're into it. And then we saw Empire Strikes Back.
It's
that was the bell that says "Go home," like after the final bell. Sorry. So we watched it, and I recorded a video of him during that point, and he was like, "Wow, that's so interesting."
It's fine.
Very active school.
It's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it.
It's just a bunch of like, "Your mom's here, leave." And so he was into it. Like, I remember we went on a bike ride the next day, and he had like a million questions about Star Wars. Like, I'm seeing it through his eyes now, right? And so like because I never saw Star Wars as a kid until I was a little older than him, and I saw it all out of order. I'm sure I saw Return of the Jedi first. And because I just didn't have older siblings, older cousins, or parents who were like into movies. And so I just kind of found out through whatever was on TV. And in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of the like sequels of everything were on TV because so many sequels came out in the 80s. So I saw like Last Crusade first, that kind of thing.
Like Ghostbusters 2 would be on way more than the first one. Mm-hmm. I remember that.
I saw Young Guns 2 first,
Well, that's the better one in my opinion. So.
Terminator 2, right? So
that's the better one.
I disagree, but we won't need to get into that.
I want to see a fight. So he's super into it. We were like going on a bike ride, and he was asking all these questions, and I was just like, dude, I can tell because the mythology is so dense, right? Mm-hmm. And he just had so many questions. And then we watched Return of the Jedi a week after that, and then he was like, "Oh my God, is it over?" And I'm like, "No, there's more." And then he was like, "I want to see Episode 7." I'm like, "No, sorry, we're gonna go to the beginning where Darth Vader's a little kid," and he just was not feeling that. He's like, "No, I want to know what's next." Like, how did the First Order start? Like stuff like that. And then I just kind of put my foot down. I was like, "No, we're gonna watch Phantom Menace." And my wife was there, and she's only seen the original trilogy and the new trilogy. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't like the original trilogy because she saw them like for the first time, like when she was in her 30s with me. Sure. And she was like, "These are like, dumb." And then but she likes the new ones a lot. So I don't know if that's common for adults or not. Also, because I think the pacing's better and there's more like, women in the new ones too. Mm-hmm. Probably.
Sure, yeah.
And so we watched Phantom Menace, and she was like, "Wow, this is like skews a little young, I think." And then I was like, "Sure, except for like the Trade Federation stuff." So we had to like explain all that to
right, sure.
John. And then he was like, "Oh, I get it." And then my 3-year-old was like, "This is scary." But then whenever Jar Jar was on, and he was just talking in his like Caribbean patois type thing, she was just cracking up, like not even at like the slapstick stuff I mean, she laughed at like him getting hurt and stuff, but just his voice was making her laugh, and I was like, this is a pretty nice special moment. I'm glad we're doing this. So yeah, long-winded way of saying that's where we're at now. I plan on showing him Attack of the Clones, and then I think I'm going to be crazy and like show him all of the Clone Wars stuff before.
That might be.
Is that a bad idea?
I actually think it's not a bad idea because you have. First of all, I think, Revenge of the Sith is certainly the most like. If he was scared of Empire, I know that was a while ago, but.
Yeah,
like Sith is a pretty like grisly movie. like some parts of that movie are, I would think, pretty scary for a little kid.
Yeah, I mean it goes way beyond just a hand being cut off. So
yeah, but so it might actually so that would also delay that. But I think also from what I gather, like younger people than us, like they a lot of them got into Star Wars through Clone Wars, so it's it might be a good like they'll deepen the character relationships and that kind of thing. So
especially with
I've
Anakin.
Never seen any of the shows, so I don't know if that's a good idea or not. But my wife thinks I'm crazy because it's like a lot of shows, and I was just
it's like I think it's like 120 episodes. Or
my kid can crush shows, so he's pretty good at just hitting next.
Well, there's great episodes, and then there's this one episode that is so episode 1 centric, which is like Jar Jar, it has to go to Toydadia, which is like the planet Watto is from. Yeah, and he has to like act as like he has to broker some sort of deal, and it is the most and the Trade Federation shows up. It's like the most episode 1 centric episode. Jar Jar is the main character. So much hijinks happens the whole time. So
yeah, that's like weirdly late in the run, I feel like.
Also, too, what's interesting in Clone Wars, speaking of Jar Jar, is Ahmed Best like does the character at sometimes, but then not always.
And it's not like he does it for a while and then stops. It like goes up and down. Like sometimes he comes back. I don't know. They must have just whatever. Could get him sometimes, couldn't get him other times, I guess. I don't know. But it was funny because when Levi alerted me to you made a post about showing the movies and I like was laughing about it because we have a long kind of internet movie discussion centric friendship, and
sure
you are a very like you can be very dismissive of Star Wars, so it's like very funny to me that your kid got into Star Wars so heavily so quickly. But I mean, I know you obviously like just have a more ambivalent relationship to it than necessarily like dislike, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, I've also changed a lot over the last handful of years. When he was born, I was like, oh man, like people who get into Star Wars young, they just like get so into it. And I was like afraid that like he wouldn't want to see other things and it would be annoying to me. And then I got older and I'm like, that's very selfish. Like, just let him be into whatever. Like, I was obsessed with stuff. And also we thought, like he's going to go to elementary school this year and he needs to have social currency, right? And the kids are going to be talking about that stuff. He's been playing like Minecraft for a year and like that's like such an in with some kids, like as something to talk about. And Beyblades, I don't know if you know what Beyblades are.
Oh, yeah, Beyblades. Yeah. I'm shocked those are popular still.
Popular when
with 6-year-olds. Yeah. There's so many like Beyblade anime shows on like Netflix. He's like so into it. But yeah, I just thought like my wife actually was like, we need to show him the original trilogy. He can't learn about I Am Your Father from other kids. He needs to get that unsullied. So we were like, all right. So we just crammed the original in for mid-August, like a month ago.
I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective because like I actually don't even remember if I knew before I saw it or not because I saw it when I was really young. But yeah, no, I've never actually. I know like older people obviously that saw them in theaters and stuff, but I don't know anybody my age. I think that has like a clear memory of that. So that's cool that like he like made it a point to save that surprise for him. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I mean Mando will be coming out so soon. So if he's at school, the kids are going to be talking about Mando. Of course, they're not going to be talking about the sequel trilogy. If you ask me.
Right. Oh well, okay, relax.
Is that the Mandalorian show?
Yes, yes,
okay.
It is.
Yeah, that show's that show is cool. I think.
And the guy who basically runs Clone Wars, this guy by the name of Dave Filoni, you may have heard of him. He went to the same college as us.
Yes, that's where I heard of him.
Yeah,
very famously we share.
Yeah, and but he co-runs the Mandalorian, so that's there's a lot of, especially, and if he watches Clone Wars, he'll be introduced to certain characters who show up later in Mandalorian, so that's actually kind of important. Cool. So
the dirty secret that Levi is not telling you is that he has not watched all of Clone Wars, and he skipped full seasons, important parts.
Wow.
So
I wanted to see the end. I wanted to see how they wrapped it into episode 3, all right? I know where the story goes.
Oh my, well, I don't even want to...
Is the Tartakovsky thing a movie or a show?
I mean, it's a show, but it plays like kind of like 2 movies because it was 2 little short seasons.
Okay. And is it like before the Clone Wars show?
Well, it technically doesn't take place in the same continuity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem with because when the Disney sale happened.
Actually, no, it's even before that.
Well, I will explain.
Yeah,
like,
okay,
I understand.
Okay, all right.
I've seen Clone Wars. I know the timeline here. Anyway, so when the Disney sale happened, the only thing that was outside the movies that was carried over was Clone Wars, like to the continuity. So
okay,
it was the 3D Clone Wars. So the Genndy Tartakovsky one. It has some weird contradictory stuff about like General Grievous and like it. Gotcha. I mean, I still think it's like worth watching, but if that's like going to be like kind of a weird like thing for him to get over, like it might be worth waiting a year or 2.
Okay, because like it looks beautiful from what I've seen.
Oh, I love it. It's great
animation.
I'm so mad he's not doing Hotel Transylvania 4. I don't even want to see it. Like,
oh yeah, no way, dude.
like no Genndy Tartakovsky or Adam Sandler. Like, what's the point?
I'm out. Yeah. Nothing will top the Gremlins in the third one.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, those are fun movies. Yes, I hope is he doing that Popeye movie? I don't know. I thought I read somewhere that's finally happening. Anyway,
I'd love a Popeye movie. I love Popeye.
Yeah, he's great.
But we can talk about that some other time. So I love watching Popeye. I will complain about this. I want to just because you guys will appreciate this. So I love watching Popeye on TCM.
Sure.
They show up on the Watch TCM app. And are you guys aware that TCM, they have changed their logo?
Oh no, I haven't seen it.
Okay, it's still TCM, but they changed the C. They made the C real kind of like artistic, and then as like part of their branding, like the C changes, so they have all these funky.
Are they trying to like?
C's.
Oh, enough of the funky C's with Criterion.
And they're very like mid-century modern. Like every single one of them has like sort of that like retro air about it. Well, whenever they updated the Watch TCM app, they added loading screens. They've added nothing else to the app. It's the same app, but they've added loading screens. And when the loading screen comes on, it flashes these C's. It's like a slideshow of these various C's. And it causes the app to become so unstable that it crashes every single time.
Well, you also have like the oldest TV of anyone I know. So
no, I've watched it. I've tried it on my iPad. Okay, two different Rokus. It crashes every time. And the one time I was still able to watch host intros, but I'm not able to watch like any movies. It'll crash as soon as I get to a movie.
Well, all you need to hear is Ben Mankiewicz's thoughts, and you're good. You don't even need to watch the movie.
And Alicia and Dave. Yeah. Now Eddie, I can leave. I'll leave Eddie on the side of the road. I do not care about Eddie Muller, so
I just want Ben Mankiewicz's hair.
He has amazing hair. Yeah,
great hair.
He really does. And I love that Dave Karger smile. That's what I would want.
Fathom Events is doing Citizen Kane in a couple weeks, and I'm gonna go, and they're doing a Ben Mankiewicz intro, so it's just gonna be him like dissing Wells because he's like, my grandfather was the real author or whatever.
Oh, right.
Anyway, speaking of TCM, a movie that might show on TCM sometimes, probably, is Strangers on a Train, which we decided to watch for this week because the book, by the way, we're reviewing.
Yeah, the book
is The Strange Case of Origami Yoda, and strange is the root of the word stranger, of course. And Strangers on a Train is a great movie, so we wanted to talk about it. So obviously, Alfred Hitchcock movie adaptation of a Patricia Highsmith novel, stars Robert Walker and what's his face?
Farley Granger.
Yes. So,
also stars Alfred's only daughter, Patricia Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Who shout out to her. She's great in the movie, and she passed away last month at the age of 91. So
that's right.
Almost a month to the day. Yeah.
Some of these old Hollywood people like just live to be. Like 5 million years old. Yeah, good for her. Yeah, so I think we've all seen this movie before, but we maybe hadn't seen it in a while. So, what was your relationship to it or Hitchcock in general prior to this evening?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got into Hitchcock late. In 2012, I took a Hitchcock class for fun, and at that point, I took 2 Hitchcock movies. The Man Who Wasn't There, or no,
that's the Coen brothers.
Yes, sorry, The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Man Who Knew, yeah,
or The Man Who Knew Too Little. I saw first, actually.
Oh yeah,
and the Bill Murray one. The Man.
And which Man Who Knew Too Much? Which one?
The first one, because it was on like Netflix. And so I saw that and North by Northwest. And then nothing else. And I'm like 28 at this point. And I'm like, and so I took a class in like, the local community college. And so it's like one movie a week, he does like a lecture and then shows a movie. So I saw about like 12 that way. And then I saw another like, I don't know, like 15 or so after slowly. So I just updated my Letterboxd ranking, good nerd does. And I have seen 31 of his movies. And Strangers on a Train is like my 4th favorite. I think it's really good. I gave it 5 stars. Tim, I saw on Letterboxd, he also gave it 5 stars. So we don't have to get really mad at each other.
Yeah, well, I don't know. What did Levi give it? I'm curious.
Yeah, are you even? I rated it 5 stars too.
Okay, no, you were not on my homepage, I guess.
Okay, all right.
I didn't look for Tim. Yeah, okay, so this is just going to be the Chris Farley show, huh?
Yeah, basically.
The Chris Farley Granger show.
I mean, this one, Hitchcock, I watched lots of his movies when I was a kid on TCM or AMC or, whatever. And I didn't see this one until I was, because I was a precocious, like, asshole teen cinephile loser. I'm glad I watched all those movies when I was that age, but I also kind of regret watching, like, so many great movies when I was, like, 15, and I have no understanding of them. Right. And now I'm like, I don't feel like rewatching a bunch of stuff, but I don't know, it's complicated. But I remember I saw this one when I was a teenager, and like I had like seen the obvious, like the Psycho, Rear Window, like the big Universal classics, and this one just completely blew me away. It's probably my favorite. It's this or Rear Window, which I still love, and Vertigo is great, but there's a million good ones, but this one though, like I for a while, at least in my view at the time, it was like this one is like on a second tier, like just fame wise, like it's like it's not like an obscure one, but it's also not like one of the like 5 ones that anyone who's like kind of into movies will eventually see. but like so it and so it just felt like it's like one you can kind of, as a young person, like feel like, oh, I discovered this, even though you didn't.
Right.
But like, so and Robert Walker, who I don't really have a ton of like familiarity with his work in general, his performance is just one of the great like screen villain performances of all time. He's so delightful in it. He has like, it's so well written, and it's adapted from a Patricia Highsmith novel. So people don't know who that is. She wrote like the Ripley novels. Talented Mr. Ripley is based on her, and Carol, I think, is based on a Highsmith novel, which is a great movie. But so I just really, and the premise, which if you don't know, the premise is these two people meet on a train, one of whom's a budding tennis star, and the other one is just a rich guy, and he's a fan, and he proposes that everyone has someone in their life that they would love to get rid of, murder, and that if two strangers met and swapped murders, then they wouldn't be able to be pinned on each other. So, the tennis guy thinks he's joking, and he winds up going and killing the guy's estranged wife for him without being asked. So, and that complications ensue. So, it's just a great setup, very and really compelling lead villain performance, especially. Farley Granger is serviceable. I mean, I think if this was like James Stewart or someone like that, it would probably be like a more memorable character, but like he does the job, in my opinion. So
I'll tell you who each actor reminded me of. Robert Walker, he reminded me, to me he was like a cross between like Kyle MacLachlan and oh damn it, the guy who's in oh man, why can't I even
in what?
The guy he has Love and Hate on his knuckles. What is that movie?
Robert Mitchum.
Hunter?
Robert Mitchum.
Yeah, Robert Mitchum. He has like kind of a Robert Mitchum, Kyle MacLachlan vibe.
I used to confuse those names, Robert Walker and Robert Mitchum.
Well, they're both Robert, so. Yeah. And then Farley Granger to me kind of had a Keanu vibe.
Yeah.
So he's because he's like a very much a pretty boy, and he's like very proper. He really enunciates his words. So
like early '90s, mid '90s Keanu.
Mm-hmm. Point Break speed Keanu. Yeah,
Dracula.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. A great performance.
It is.
I know.
Mina.
We're all huge Dracula fans on this podcast.
Oh yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
So
I was afraid this wasn't a safe place for me.
Yeah.
So.
No. I mean, yeah. So with Granger, I feel like his character is a total weenie, and Granger, I mean, like in this and in Rope, he's kind of the same kind of like anxious, kind of fuddy-duddy, wet blanket of a character kind of. And so I'm thinking like, okay, is he just really good at this, or is he sticking out in a bad way? Like, would there be better casting out there? Or is this feeling I have like kind of against him? Actually him doing his job really well. So that's one question I'd ask you guys. Like, do you feel like he's well cast and does a great job, or could this movie be even better with somebody else?
I think I could feel differently on different days, because I think in some ways the fact that he's such a kind of a lame character, I think is very intentional, because I think the film wants you to root for the Robert Walker character for much of the runtime. So, like, making the seemingly like good character like less likable, like I think is part of the factor there. Whereas, like I mentioned, like James Stewart just because he's an obvious like Hitchcock collaborator, but someone like him, I think then I think the Robert Walker character becomes way more villainous if you're comparing him to the kind of star persona. Because Farley Granger was like, he was in a lot of movies and like he worked a lot, but he wasn't like a huge star like that had an overpowering personality. And so I think if you put Jimmy Stewart or Cary Grant or someone like that in there, I think in some ways it would like hit like I don't think it's a two-hand. I don't think it's like a Heat situation where you want two people at like the peak. I think you want to highlight the Robert Walker character a little more.
I agree with that because I always agree with you. That's the context of this show mostly.
Well, there's a couple exceptions, but yeah.
There's a couple exceptions. We won't name what. I don't want to start a fight, even though Franco wants to see a fight. But like, I think I agree. Like he's kind of a schmuck. He doesn't own up to things. You kind of don't like him.
Like if he was just straightforward from the beginning and didn't lie to everybody, like even if he had told one other person from the beginning what was going on, like it would eventually probably work out for him because it does ultimately work out for him in the end.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you guys read this, but the original ending of this movie, it ends at the carnival where he's. Where somebody asks him who the Robert Walker character was, and he's just like, that was Bruno. He was a clever fellow, and that was going to be the end of the movie. So it's like kind of like where and then they have the studio made them add on this thing with him and his new fiance that like, I guess probably softens the character a little bit, but I kind of, but I mean, I still think it's a fun ending, but but I think that ending, obviously, I think would nail what I was talking about, where like you want the character to be unlikable and kind of like blank, because like in the end he's happy really that Robert Walker murdered his wife, like because he's like, well, as long as I get away with it and I don't get in trouble, like this is what I wanted in the end, you know. So,
Franco, where do you stand on this? So you've already called him a wet rag.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like one of those situations where you think they do a good job, but you're like allergic to their screen presence or their style. I also saw him in They Live by Night, which is like a few years before this.
Is that Nicholas Ray? Or?
Yeah. It's kind of like a romance drama, like in the clothes of like a noir. I don't know if you guys seen that one.
I haven't. No.
Yeah, it's Nicholas Ray's first movie. I mean, I'm fine with Granger. I think I liked him better in Rope because that movie's there's more anxiety and stuff, and I think he does well. I think of the three guys in Rope, or the two guys, he's like the one who's like cracking under the pressure, and I think he does a good job at that.
Yeah, I haven't seen Rope in forever. Like I remember like not being in love with it, but I also saw it when I was 13.
That's also one I haven't seen. So, but you know, like all good film majors, I discover real cinema in college. So yeah, I
was a bad film major, so you're right about that.
So that's the first time I saw this movie was in college, probably in the middle of the night, but I remember thinking this movie was 5 out of 5 then, and I was like, will the movie hold up?
Well,
and it held up.
I mean,
I watched this.
It's just so well made. It's just so fun. Like
there's this moment. I watched this on Labor Day with my wife, my mother-in-law, and my 2 sister-in-laws. And there's so many moments where they were just like pointing out, like whenever Bruno first approaches Guy for the first time, and he gives him his estranged wife's glasses. He's like a guy's about to like step out. Bruno's like he's literally behind a fence, and the cop pulls up, and then Bruno, he tucks back into the shadows, and the camera reveals like they're both behind bars. Like that is so well presented, so well shot. And then the ending, the whole carousel sequence, we were screaming. Yeah. The whole family was screaming. The guy crawling underneath, you know.
I can handle it.
Yeah, I love like when it cut back to him and he just like wipes his nose and then like cuts.
And I love that the cops are scared. They are so scared.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I'm not doing it. Like, and it's all the cops' fault because they are just, firing at a carousel. So
they shoot the guy, and he makes the funniest face before he dies. And I wonder if there's going to be any consequences for that cop.
Yeah, Jesus. It's hilarious because it's like it's a carousel. They move pretty slowly. You can hop on, instead of shooting the operator. I don't understand what their end goal was. I mean, the end goal was to have a cool sequence, of course, but
right. I mean, I think they were trying to shoot Guy, but their aim was terrible, and they shot the operator, is what I think.
Yeah.
But even then, that bullet, that it's a crackpot shot because that bullet would have had to travel, it would have had to cross through the moving carousel, so it would have had to dodge horses and everything. So
it's that JFK bullet.
I loved the when the carousel's spinning off the axis and those insert shots of the horses coming straight at the camera.
Yeah.
Very I don't know. It's a great sequence. And
I mean, this might be some of the greatest carousel usage in any cinema, because even earlier in the movie, the first time they're on the carousel, when Bruno is stalking the estranged wife, they have
that sequence is incredible.
It's shot like a chase scene, and that is so inventive and so great.
That whole scene where the murder scene is unbelievable.
When the two little boats go in that tunnel of love thing, and then the shadow overtakes the other one, I'm like, oh, this is fun. Yeah. This is so fun. Hitchcock he's like a master technician. He's just so good. It just all of his movies just go down real smooth, real easy, except maybe Vertigo.
That movie's just so.
But it is my favorite, so I have no complaints.
Oh, I mean, it's a great movie, but
totally basic. Number one, but
it wasn't for a long time, so I feel like it's fine. I mean, he's one of those people that almost doesn't have underrated movies, really. Because anyone that somebody's tried to find, let's reclaim this one. It's well, it's been 80 years of people talking about this guy. They've all none of them are under discussed at this point, but they're all a lot of them are still incredible. So, I guess except the post-Bird stuff. That stuff I think is still kind of but I mean, a lot of that's not good though. So.
Torn Curtain is really a big dud for me. It's too bad though, because it has Paul Newman in it and Julie Andrews, but it's way too much of a 60s Hollywood, early 60s.
I think that's the problem with a lot of the kind of old Hollywood guys when they would make movies in the late 60s and the early 70s. It's the new generation of stars, just the post kind of Brando stars, just didn't really work in their context in the same way. So it's just, I mean, some of those movies I really like. I mean, I like Frenzy a lot. That's a good, for a late period Hitchcock.
Yes.
I mean, that movie's so perverted,
gross.
But
we said the same thing.
But I kind of I like Marnie too. I think Connery is a good fit for Hitchcock. I mean, those are similar visions of masculinity from those guys, I would say. Whatever you feel about that, but
that one, if I remember correctly, also a bit kind of weird. Uncomfortable sexual politics.
I mean, that's part of the package with Hitchcock, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
No. Well, I was gonna say, I learned today doing a little bit of research, a really funny Carol Burnett story. Where she was a usher when this movie came out. She was really young, 1951, before she got big.
Right.
And this couple comes in to see the movie, and they're late. And she says, you know what, you should go home and come back another day because this movie's so good. And they're like, okay. And then she got fired for that by the manager. And then later on when she was getting her Hollywood Walk of Fame star, they were like, "Where do you want it?" And she was like, "In front of that theater."
Oh, that's awesome!
Wow.
Oh man,
Totally.
I hate managers of all stripes, and so I appreciate that.
I was not to. It was something I was going to say because we were talking about good masculine fits with Alfred Hitchcock. A modern one who I think would be a very good fit would be the Lord Oscar Isaac.
Oh yeah, he would actually. I mean, I don't know because he's very post 70s, like in terms of his style as an actor.
Well, I did want to use this to transition into us. I want to revive a segment that we used to do on our old podcast, Missing Reels. That's
Yes.
right. I'm talking about Oscar Watch, baby.
So much to watch right now.
Let's do it.
So, of course, Paul Schrader's latest film, The Card Counter, comes out this weekend. And unfortunately, Tim, and I've already discussed this with you, and you are suffering from the same problem. Our theaters are not getting it.
Well,
So
I have plans now. I'm going to Cleveland to see it tomorrow. So,
Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to see. Actually, this is off topic of Oscar Isaac, but I'm going to see that, and then I'm going to the Cleveland Cinematheque to see the Shinoda movie, Pale Flower, in 35 millimeters. And I'm very excited.
Wow.
I'm having a day at the cinema.
Dude, that's so cool. Yeah. Where I live, we're getting it, but our family, like, COVID rule is no movie theaters until our kids are vaccinated.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's a huge bummer for me because I don't know if you guys know, but this past year I went on a Paul Schrader tear. I saw like 15 of his movies, like another 5 that he wrote, and he quickly became a guy who's like that I vibe with big time, even though his like Facebook posts are like the grossest things imaginable. I don't know if you've been following him. I'm surprised he hasn't been canceled yet.
Yeah.
But
I'm following him right now on Facebook.
Oh yeah. So there's this Twitter handle called Paul Schrader's Facebook posts or something. So you want to follow that and then just go look at it's so funny. But yeah, so Oscar Watch, I will be seeing that one when it comes to VOD, I guess.
Yeah, no.
I heard an NPR review today. I was getting my oil changed listening to the NPR review, and it sounded positive, but the guy, he was giving too much away, in my opinion. Like, he was getting too deep, and I had to shut it off. I didn't want anything spoiled on it. So.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, First Reformed, his last movie, was my favorite movie of that year. And I love Affliction. I love Mishima.
Have you seen Autofocus, the Greg Kinnear, Willem Dafoe
I haven't.
one?
No, the one about the Hogan's Hero guy.
Oh yeah, it's so great and perverted. And the Nicolas Cage one that got taken away from him, it's called Dying by the Light.
Yeah.
It got taken away by him, and Anton Yelchin's in it and some other people, and it's the one that got released is supposedly really bad, but you can find an illegal version that Schrader like got and re-edited, and it's super like artsy fartsy and only like 80 minutes, and it's like so interesting. And then he did that one with Nick Cage and Willem Dafoe called Dog Eat Dog, which nobody liked, but it is bananas. And,
I've heard it's crazy.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but yeah.
Yeah, so aside from the Canyons, that's his only dud of this century, I would say. But the Canyons is like really bad.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Story, yeah.
It's way more a Bret Easton Ellis movie than a Paul Schrader movie.
Yeah. That's
not
for me.
I pulled up the Twitter page, Paul Schrader's Facebook post, and number one, this is the pinned tweet. I enter unwashed into a world that disrespects me and despises my values.
Oh well. Okay, we don't need to read a bunch of Paul Schrader Facebook posts.
Most of them are like your your accidentally racist, sexist uncle who's really confused about why people are upset about what he just said. Right. And they're like almost none of them are like edgelordy and stuff like that. Like he probably is like a, you know, I don't know, centrist, libertarian kind of guy. So he's not like, it's not like a James Woods thing, you know, we got going on here.
No, yeah, I know. It's just, yeah, I mean, yeah, he just says stuff that, you know, he just shouldn't be, people shouldn't be on social media in general. I don't understand.
This one is really funny. Focus Features has asked me to chill on Facebook for a month. No problem. See you on the other side. Card counter open September 10th.
And then he came back like a week later. It was great and kept going. And then people would tag Focus Features and be like, the publicist needs to come right now. And please call Paul. He's going to get his movies pulled.
Yeah, like okay, what?
Oscar watch.
I was going to say, this is
There's
Oscar
so
watch.
much more Oscar stuff to talk
I know. Because he's starring in Moon Knight, which is some Marvel BS.
I'm so mad about this show because it has him
and of course has Ethan Hawke. I've wanted to see the two together on screen. Not in this capacity. Who is Moon Knight, Tim? I have no clue who Moon Knight is.
He's like a Marvel Batman ripoff, but he has like some sort of oh man, I always tried to read Moon Knight and I never got past like 2 issues with any series. He has like some, I don't want to say specifically because I don't know, but he has like some sort of mental illness, like officially, I think, as a character. I don't have much knowledge of that character. It's not so much that I'm very exhausted by Marvel, and it's just a bummer that 2 of my favorite actors are going to be in this show, because it's like I kind of have to watch that now, because I'm not normally I'm not like a completist all the time with like an individual actor, but if you put like 2 people, like I want to watch them on screen together, so it's I'll at least watch the first episode on that. But he's also in the Scenes from a Marriage thing with Jessica Chastain.
The reunion.
Yeah.
Juilliard's greatest. I think they were both graduated 2008 that year. So that was the year. So I'm very excited about that too.
Yeah, I'm looking at his IMDb and I'm like, holy crap! I didn't know he had all these like.
And he's in
things
Dune
happening
also. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and he's in the movie about the making of The Godfather. He's playing Francis Ford.
I know, which is great casting. I love that.
Yeah,
and he's also in the new James Gray movie, I think, Armageddon Time.
Yeah.
Which I'm a big James Gray fan.
He's Solid Snake in the Metal Gear Solid movie. I know that sounds like I'm making it up. It's from the dude that made Kong Skull Island, which I never saw.
Not a huge fan of that, but
yeah. But Elizabeth Moss plays Eleanor Coppola.
Oh my gosh!
and Jake Gyllenhaal is Robert Evans, the producer. So there's going to be a lot of like him yelling at young Isaac, Francis. But it's directed by Barry Levinson, which I don't know.
Oh, if this was like 1990, I would be excited about that.
But I hate Rain Man so much.
Well, I don't really. Well, have you seen like Have you seen like Avalon?
No, I haven't. I really have only seen like. I'm looking here, Man of the Year, Envy. I've seen those 2. I saw Sphere, baby, Sphere. Okay. I saw Sleepers and Wag the Dog both when they came out. Toys is like crazy, kind of weird. Yeah. I never saw. Yeah, that's it. I never saw Diner or Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah, the ones I really like are like Diner, Tin Men, and Avalon. Those like Baltimore movies are I think are really good. And then I love The Natural, but that's like that's a weird movie, but I love that movie. But yeah, and I like young Sherlock Holmes. He has a weird career. Like it's kind of all over the place. But Anyway, yeah, lots of Oscar stuff to look forward to.
Looking at the Wikipedia page, Tim, for Moon Knight, apparently these are his not his current. He has current abilities and former abilities. This is, of course, the comic book, and his former abilities are increased strength, speed, and endurance based on the lunar cycle.
Oh. So like werewolf kind of?
He's like a werewolf, yeah. He's only good for, a couple times a month, maybe, so...
Interesting.
Now, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I'm glad we got our Oscar watch in, because it's becoming... Oscar season is upon us.
It is. We got the card counter out this weekend.
Dune next month.
Dune, yep. Mm-hmm. It's going to be fun.
He looks majestic in Dune.
He does. He does.
Have you guys read or seen Dune?
I've seen the Lynch one.
Okay. Yeah. So he's playing Timothée Chalamet's dad.
Yeah, which is, I guess the age does work out, because he's older than you think and Chalamet's younger than you think, I think is the general. But yeah, I'm like halfway. I'm like a quarter of the way through the book, which means I'm halfway through the material that's covered in the movie, apparently. So, I'm enjoying it so far. I love like wild, like 50s, 60s sci-fi stuff. So
I'm excited to go to Arrakis.
I read that book like 13 years ago, and I really dug it. And I recently saw the Lynch one. I went through all of his movies, so I was in a very kind of Lynch mind space, and I was so embarrassed by how much I thought that movie was great. like less as like maybe a Dune movie, and more as just like just imagine if that was like an original screenplay, let's say. I think it would be a lot more well received or remembered, because it's just kind of bananas. Like, it's pretty weird and fun.
It has like more mental asides than like any movie I've ever seen before. Like, you hear everybody's thoughts like throughout the movie, and it's sometimes jarring at times, because I feel like the first time it starts to happen, you're like, are these like telekinetic beings like talking to each other? What's going on here? But it is bonkers, really bonkers.
Yeah, it's kind of like, but it's so funny that's like probably his most, like, other than Elephant Man, his most accessible movie.
There's a straight story.
Oh, the straight story.
Story.
I know the straight story. You don't need
it. It was probably his most watched movie.
Oh, it was a bomb, but I think it made more money. Like the actual, like, obviously it lost money, but yeah, I think it
had toys. There were Dune toys.
Oh yeah, they go for so much.
It was that time where you could make a toy line based on any rated movie. So
RoboCop.
R-rated,
I remember.
I
very RoboCop toys.
Terminator. There were Starship Trooper toys too, which is one of the wildest like movies to make toys from. Honestly, if you think about it. But
Frank, did you watch season 3 of Twin Peaks?
Oh yeah, dude! Appointment viewing for sure.
I agree.
Every week. It's my greatest shame. I still haven't watched it. That's why you brought it up. That's why you brought it up.
It is. Levi, yelling at you to watch it. So
Levi, you will appreciate this, and Tim cannot. But
okay.
So during the season, it was like one episode at a time. My wife and I and my son, who was 2 at the time, we went on a road trip through the California redwoods and the Pacific Northwest, and we were just camping all along there, like in Washington, and we were downloading the show onto our iPad, and then like a few times we like literally watched the show at night around the fire on the iPad in like the Twin Peaks kind of like climate, and it was just so surreal and kind of scary, but it was like, I don't know, it was like that, like those 2 months I feel like were so special, when like the internet was just kind of watching it together and talking about it, and then it just ended and we were all like, oh, what do we do now? Like, there's nothing left.
It's funny you say that because I went on a road trip at that same exact time as it was airing, and I have very fond memories of watching the 8th episode of that season, which is the crazy episode. I remember I was sitting outside my tent at a KOA in Texarkana, Arkansas,
nice.
The Arkansas side of it.
Yeah.
And my wife and I, this is when we were dating, we were just blown away by what we were watching. We couldn't believe it. So that's incredible. Tim needs to watch that.
Yeah.
What happened, Tim? Showtime?
Well, this is what happened.
I would have given him the Showtime login. I was having parties at my apartment. People were coming. We were watching Twin Peaks together.
You live 90 minutes away from me. I'm not driving that every week. Anyway, but I didn't. I was that was the beginning of when I was like very checked out from just the internet or the movie news cycle. So I wasn't really aware that it was like imminent. And then I saw what our mutual friend, me and Levi's mutual friend, Dan, at the mall, and he was just like, "Are you excited about Twin Peaks tonight?" And I was like, "That's tonight?" I thought that was like next year. And I had wanted to rewatch like the entire original series beforehand, and I was just like, "Well, I missed the boat on this, so I'm just gonna wait till it's over." And now I just haven't gotten around to it. I own the Blu-ray of the return, and I still haven't watched it. It's embarrassing.
Shameful.
Honestly.
Franco, do you have the Blu-ray of the 3rd season?
No, I don't.
Oh man, sadly. I want to talk about it, even though I don't want to spoil anything with you.
The set is cool. Do you have it, Levi?
Yeah, I do have it. I love the way the cover is. Yeah. The cover is it's the I'll just say it's the 3. You like you.
I know 2, there are 3.
And then you pull it open and it's the 3. So
I've absorbed some of the stuff, which it's not going to change the experience for me. At this point, I knew who killed Laura Palmer when I watched the original show. It's not like I'll be fine.
Oh, big man on campus.
I'm more culturally aware than you. It is what it is. Okay. Well, this is our longest.
This was a strange case. You guys, we're having a strange case right now.
This was our longest opening segment in quite a while. So. We're going to take our break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the strange case of Origami Yoda. So stay tuned, everybody. Welcome back to Padawan Library. I'm Tim May, here as always with Levi Peretic.
Hello.
And our guest this week, Franco Asmaeil.
Hey.
So, Franco, we wanted to have you on mostly to talk about introducing your kids to Star Wars and just to have you on because the show's ending soon, and it's like you're a podcast buddy, so we figured you should be on. But we didn't want to make you read some weird lore infested nonsense that we normally read. So there was a perfect book for that. We found there's this book by Tom Engelberger called The Strange Case of Origami Yoda. That's written for elementary school kids. It's kind of like a Diary of a Wimpy Kid kind of thing is my general sense of, it's about actual kids at an elementary school, and one of them makes an Origami Yoda, and everyone believes it has secret powers.
Because the kid is too stupid. He's too much of an idiot. That's the way that the kid's writing this book.
Well, he's a total spaz. He's a spaz.
Now, I want to say.
I mean, he probably has some sort of disorder, but
it's not specified.
To me, the character in question, who is named Dwight, he's the one with the Origami Yoda finger puppet. To me, this guy is just like the Joker in the makings. Everything's part of a plan. He has everything planned out, and he's playing stupid this whole time. He's completely aware of what he's doing.
Yeah,
and the other kids just think he's an idiot, but he is pulling all the strings the whole time.
And his biggest foil is named Harvey. So,
that's true.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, Harvey is like a huge asshole, like the worst kid ever, honestly.
Total incel, right?
Speaking of the Dark Knight, there's this line that Mel and I, we always quote, and it is something that Batman says to Harvey, that he's like, he's a paranoid schizophrenic, the kind of mind the Joker attracts. We say this all the time.
Awesome.
And I realized recently, schizophrenia is often misconstrued as split personality disorder, and Harvey becomes Two-Face, and Joker is the one who cracks him into turning heel in the story.
Yeah.
So, Harvey himself is one of those paranoid schizophrenic, the kind of mind the Joker attracts. So,
oh man.
So you'll think of that line differently next time.
Yeah, you've solved the Dark Knight. No one ever needs to talk about it again.
Dude, this needs to be a YouTube essay right now.
Yeah, you'll get like 200,000 views right away.
And just throw in Padawan Library like every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
This episode's brought to you by Padawan Library.
The only things I get in my YouTube recommendations are like a video essay about the Dark Knight and like a 4-hour video of someone complaining about The Last Jedi. That's all I get. Even though like I never watch anything like that, it's just like, why are you feeding this to me? Anyway, so
it knows you're a podcaster.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Let's bring this back to the strange case of Origami Yoda, because we're not reading the series. We're just reading this first one.
Yeah, I'm surprised there are sequels after reading this. Honestly, it feels like pretty standalone.
Okay,
I don't think I could do it.
This book series must have been. It must be wildly popular, okay? Tom Engelberger, he's written a slew of books, but he has sold more than 3.3 million copies worldwide, according to like his Wikipedia page.
What?
And these books came out between 2010 and 2014. There are, let me see here, there are 5 sequels as well as an activity book that came out. The sequels are Darth Paper Strikes Back, The Secret of the Fortune Wookiee,
oh no,
Surprise Attack of Jabba the Puppet, Princess Label Maker to the Rescue, and Emperor Pickletine Rides the Bus.
Whoa. Yes. We should have gone to that last one.
Emperor Sheev Pickletine.
Emperor Pickletine.
And I was reading some of the descriptions of these books, and like all the same character in them, and it just like continues to follow them through school. And like one's like, well, Dwight is absent. Dwight goes to camp, and they have like some other person comes in with this origami thing,
They just couldn't close the deal with Dwight. Dwight was asking for too much money to come back for the sequel. So.
This has overtaken the whole like Hobbit trilogy. Should have been 2 movies. Like now it's the Origami Star Wars should have been 1 or 2 books, not 7.
Like,
wow.
Well, I'm shocked that there are that many. Because this kind of feels like it takes place over the course of like a whole school year, honestly. So like they can't like just keep getting older with more like Origami Star Wars characters. Like it's but anyway, this.
Now, hang on. There is something I wanted to share on OrigamiYoda.com. Okay, and it claims right at the top the New York Times best-selling series Origami Yoda.
I mean, I believe that it's sold well.
Best. This might be the biggest book we've actually read for this show, but Tom claims in this post that has he has no update that there is a movie in the works.
I actually think that was announced. I remember maybe reading that on like Slash Film when we were in college or something that it was announced. So it's not impossible. It's obviously not going to happen at this point. It's too late, probably. But
let's see when the post was from 2014 that he said that they are making a movie.
Yeah, there's nothing on IMDb. Yep, do you think like Origami had like like a phase in our culture.
I remember,
and then we're out of it now.
Well, when I was in, I mean, this book is from what, 2010? You said, Levi?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, like I was in college by that point, but when I was in elementary school, like early elementary school in the late 90s, I remember like doing some origami things, just some basic like crane stuff and that kind of thing. But I mean, I imagine like it's still like a viable like basic craft project for like kindergarten or something. But I don't.
Oh, sure. Like, I just didn't know if there was like a craze,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was I think it was like a kind of fun thing you can do with elementary school kids, like, but it wasn't something they were necessarily doing at home, like for fun. Mm-hmm. Like. And speaking of before we get into the book, I guess in the back they had instructions for how to make your own Origami Yoda, and I tried this afternoon. I tried, guys, and at first I thought, well, you got to have brown and green because otherwise, if it's just all green, it would look bad. And this is the weird result of that. It looks terrible.
Okay,
we'll post pictures.
Oh.
And it looks like he has a brown head. I don't know how I screwed it up, honestly. But
all right, I'll show mine. I didn't have any colored paper, so I used printer paper. And afterwards, I realized it said you should use half a sheet of paper. And this is what I got from mine.
Oh wow, that's huge. That's great.
Yeah, I think I got close, but like the ears were a little difficult, and I ended up having to like rip the paper to make the ears. And I don't think that's what I was supposed to do at all. So
I made a second attempt here that is like
that was a good one too.
So we'll post pictures of these on the Instagram.
Franco, did you attempt?
I did for like a hot second, and then I rage quitted. I'm
totally fair.
I've never been diagnosed, but if there is such a thing as like spatial dyslexia, I for sure have it. My wife got my son into origami, and they have like origami books, and they go on YouTube and stuff. And man, therethere's nothing like not being able to do any of that like, really good for your self-esteem. Like 6-year-olds like, you need to help me. I'm like, I don't. I'm just wait. Your mom's in the bathroom. Just wait. But speaking of my 6-year-old, so when the book came in the mail, he was really excited because he loves origami and he loves Star Wars now. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read it all out loud to you. And then we got like 5 pages in, and he was like utterly shocked that it didn't take place in like space in the Star Wars universe. And he was just like so disappointed and just like left the room after a few pages because he's like, this like boring. This is like regular life. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like I didn't know. I just like so I read it on my own by myself.
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. No, I mean it was way slower if he had liked it. So
sure.
I was able to get through it. So I teach 8th grade history now, but last 2 years ago and for many years before that, I taught 6th grade English. So I'm well versed with the age group of kids and also with these types of books because as an English teacher, you have to have like a robust classroom library. And there's some kids, especially almost exclusively boys, who like reading, but they're not really that into it. And they don't want to read fantasy or sci-fi because it's like too complex. So they just want to read like regular kid stuff at school. Like you said, Diary of a Wimpy Kid and James Patterson books. And so I just felt like I was reading one of those books, especially with the like first person point of view. And also like each chapter is told from the perspective of a different student.
Much like Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's an epistolary novel. So there's
exactly.
Dearest Mina.
So Yeah, no, so basically, I don't have a lot of familiarity with that stuff because, like, the last thing that I read when I was, like, I work in schools too, but I work in high schools, so I don't really have any experience with this kind of thing. And the last book series for this age group that came out when I was a kid that I got into was Captain Underpants, probably. So
that was big Captain Underpants,
which I know is still like pretty popular, I think, but the for younger kids. But there is like this. I mean, this isn't quite that, but there is this like now like it's an interesting thing if you're like interested in comic books that like lots of like comic book fans, like adult comic fans, like constantly talk about how the sky is falling and the medium is dying because like whatever Detective Comics only sold 40,000 copies last month or something, and unless like there are like graphic novels like written for kids that sell like millions of copies like every year. There's like 5 of them at least, and like the medium is doing just fine. It's just not your beloved corporate properties anyway. So here I am hosting a Star Wars junior novel podcast, so I should look in the mirror, I suppose. But
you're not complaining about the state of the junior novels, are you?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, the state of Star Wars junior novels, perhaps, but that's a whole other thing.
We're not proud of what we do, not at all. we don't tell people about
you
this.
have cornered the market. I don't know any other podcast that does
I remember somebody, and I think it was like an iTunes review. They were just like the budgeting junior novel podcast scene.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was frankly part of the reason. Is it's like, well, because me and Levi obviously share many interests, but we both like Star Wars, and we're like, well, if we do another podcast, do you want to do a Star Wars podcast? And I was like, there are so many Star Wars podcasts, and there's like no way to stick out. And I was like, unless we just like review like junior novels. I said it basically as a joke, and then we're like, that's actually like no one's talking about that. So, and actually, it's turned out well. I'm happy we did it, even though I'm a little I'm excited for the show to be over, but I'm happy we've done the show, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, I mean, you guys must spend so much time reading. Like, I often think about like, man, they just gotta crank these out like one a week. That's a book a week.
It is.
And
this is like among the longer books we've read for the show, to be fair. Like they're usually 120, like 120 pages, huge print. So it's not a huge commitment. But
yeah, I mean, it will say about this book too. This is a size 10 font in this book because in the back of the book they give the stats of the various fonts used.
That's worth noting. This is published by Abrams, which is like a real like publisher. Like, and there's no like. I mean, I'm sure they had to license something from Lucasfilm, but like this isn't like a Lucasfilm product really. Like it's like
right.
So it, like they have to like give a copyright notice about the characters and stuff, but that's it. So it's like so like the production of a book is much higher end typically than your typical like Scholastic or Lucas books, like
gotcha.
Just like pumping them out, but the I'll say this in general. I don't know if it's just because I'm so used to reading books for this show, and this was just a change of pace. But I had a pretty good time reading this. I don't think it's not great or anything, but like there's like it was like a quick read for me in a way that sometimes I'm just like I have read too many versions of this scenario, like
right,
and I don't have to think about it in the context of like. Of any like universe building or any series long arc or anything. So it was kind of nice to just like, I can just read this and like, this is even though there were sequels, I guess it's a pretty closed narrative. I can just like, and and I thought that, it's the kind of thing that I imagine I might have enjoyed when I was a kid, although this kind of thing really didn't exist when I was a kid. But like given what I grew up to be obsessed with, which is, I love like just stories about, I love high school bullshit and like all this stuff. So and this is obviously like young kids, but I liked like Hey Arnold when I was a kid and cartoons like that are just about kids, So on that level, it's like, I don't think they did a pretty good job with Dwight in that he is pretty unlikable. So like you don't feel so bad that like Tommy, the main character, like says some mean stuff about Dwight, and you're like, well, that is him being mean, but it feels realistic that a kid that age would like.
He also apologizes and feels bad about it.
They do a good job with that, but they give Dwight some like some of his stuff is just quirky, but then he also does like says some stuff that is like beyond just like quirky. Like there's that whole thing where it's the top 10 most weirdest things he's done, and where he said to like some speaker that came to their school, like a Native American speaker, said something about like Columbus introducing him into underwear or something like weird. And I was like, I can believe that's a believable like weird kid who like heard some weird stuff at home or in a class and like is regurgitating something. Like it's believable, but it's also like it like you're like, oh, like it's not just weird. It's like, oh, well, that's something you would have to talk to him about, you know?
Yeah.
Like so. I think that was smart to like make it like not too much like, well, he's just like a weird kid and they're like just hating on him, you know?
Right. It's not like Wonder with the
oh yeah, I've never read
Wonder.
That. I saw that movie. It was very unfortunate, I thought.
I didn't see the movie, but the book was extremely popular with like 4th to 6th graders. Sure. And it's the same thing where every chapters from the point of view of somebody else, and the main character, the kid with the deformed face, I guess, like you really feel bad for him. So Dwight didn't have that, and I don't think we've mentioned the like kind of hook of the story, which is he makes a finger puppet of Yoda and then speaks like Yoda and gives advice like Yoda. And the advice is always good, and like the predictions come true, but it's weird because Dwight is such like a, considered to be such an idiot by all the kids. So the whole idea of the book is they're like writing down everything to do with Yoda, almost like case files, just to kind of process whether it's real or not, and so that gives it a hook, like, and then the kids take turns writing in the notebook, in quotes. So that seemed like a pretty interesting, and the way they end it, with the dance and just kind of all the stories coming together. I mean, it was just very competently made, in terms of structure. Sorry if I spoiled it.
No, you didn't spoil it at all.
We always spoil the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, normally we go beat by beat in these books, and this is not a book to go beat by beat on.
Yeah, I think I'll say that I think he did a fairly good job of like making each kid's voice kind of pretty distinct. Like some of the kids are better writers. Some of the kids are like, there's one kid that like doesn't want to write, so he like records it, and the main kid transcribes it or whatever. So they're like. And I like that Harvey is just like a bad kid, but they're all friends with him. Like, you know what I mean? Because that feels very true to childhood, like where it's like, well, this guy like kind of just sucks, but like we're all kids, so like we still are friends with him, and we're gonna continue. And he might be fine in 5 years, but like we're still gonna be friends with him. So
the author doesn't shoehorn in like either them kicking him out of the group and then him like learning his lesson and saying he's sorry. He doesn't change at all. And the only comeuppance, I guess, is that at the end he doesn't have anyone to dance with.
Right.
Nobody wants to dance with him.
There was one bit that I marked here that I thought was funny, but one of the stories is like Origami Yoda tells a girl like twist.
Oh, this is so weird.
I can't remember why he tells her to twist, but anyway, she goes home and she Googles like the twist.
Chubby checker,
yeah. And what pops up is like, oh, the twist was a song on the Spider-Man 3 soundtrack. That's something Harvey says. Harvey's like, oh, the twist, that was on the Spider-Man 3 soundtrack.
That was shocking to me. I was just like, they are referencing the like cooking scene from Spider-Man 3. I'm blown away. It's just like And
well, it was only 4 years after the movie came.
That's true. Again, you know, and hey, you know, everybody's gonna probably be rewatching those movies because of this Marvel nonsense coming up.
Sam Raimi, baby.
Yeah, I love it. He's the only thing keeping me invested in Marvel. Yeah. I'm like, I have to see his next movie, so I'll keep watching his crap.
Yeah,
I've actually never seen Spider-Man 3, so I didn't understand the reference.
Oh, well, there's a scene where Kirsten Dunst and James Franco are cooking, and it's set to the twist. It's so weird. But it's I mean, I love those movies, and I wish that anyone with that level of craft made superhero movies. Still,
and
anyway,
I just want to say, I won Dunst and Franco. In,
not gonna happen.
And I wish it would. I want them in the next one, new Spider-Man movie. But
I don't think. Who knows who's going to be in it? I don't know.
Dude, they should get Tom Hardy and Topher Grace because it's a multiverse, right?
Oh yeah. And there's
so both of the. Isn't he Venom?
Yeah, he is Venom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's Venom 2 coming out in like 2 weeks, apparently.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
People really like that first one. Some people.
I think
I thought it was fun. I thought it was very fun.
I think
I heard it was chaotic.
The first hour is a lot of fun. Like, it reminded me a lot of like pre-MCU superhero movies. You know,
oh, that's great.
Which I enjoy. You know, like, you know, even if they're bad, they're like there's an. I hate to call like terrible like post Roland Emmerich like blockbusters like classic Hollywood craft, but that's what it feels like at this point. So, it's I don't know if anyone here saw Godzilla vs. Kong. But
I did.
No. That movie, I thought that movie felt so much like a Roland Emmerich movie.
Even like the opening credits, like from the way that the opening credits were, it was like, this is 90s blockbuster right here, baby.
Do you guys feel like enough time has passed that now the 90s are like a definitive aesthetic and kind of tone and feel? Whereas I feel like 10 years ago, you couldn't really think about the 90s that way, but now enough time has passed, and especially like Gen Z is like into the 90s the way like some millennials were into the 80s and 70s. So it's like all these middle schoolers where I work, like not all of them, but a good amount of them dress like it's the early 90s with I think that's wide pants and stuff like that, and
that's
acid wash jeans and stuff like that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, like at my school, like the fashion especially is like, you know, you got like lots of like hip hop fashion from like not the early 90s, but like the mid 90s is like very, very in. And I think there's like, as far as movies go, I think there's something to the fact that they're kind of the most, I mean, obviously movies were still shot on film in the 2000s, but that's post like, kind of digital color, starts in the year 2000. So the 90s is like the newest movies that look kind of like old movies. So like, I wonder if there's like for film, the reason that era, I mean, it was also a good time for American movies in general, probably, but like, I think that's why those movies are like still getting a life, because it's like, this feels very distinct from what we watch now, like new movies, even great movies, you know, it's just because but
well,
I don't know.
I feel like Hollywood movie craft was like it died in 2008 and was born again as the MCU, because 2008 is when we have The Dark Knight, which is that classic that 90s Hollywood blockbuster. We're gonna flip a semi truck up over end and we're gonna do it.
Heat and put Batman in it,
and then 2008 is also when Iron Man comes out. So like, you know,
but like if you watch Iron Man now, it feels like a totally different thing than Marvel movies. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels, I don't know why, like, what is a weird tangent, but like, just like, and you may like it or not, but it does not feel like what that franchise became in a lot of ways. It's like, because I caught it on TV like a year ago and I was like, this feels so removed from like Endgame or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just,
Or I remember it having a lot more physical sets than like what a Marvel movie would have now. Like,
and it's just an entirely self-contained movie. I know it has the post credits, but it's like it just doesn't. It's only concerned with itself by and large.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whatever. It doesn't matter. I complain about the Marvel movies all the time, but I see most of them, and I actually mostly like have a good time. I just don't like, but I'm just tired of I'm tired of like the endless churn. So.
Yeah. Wait, how old were you guys in 2008?
17.
Yeah, we were like, seniors in high school. Yeah.
Okay. So. Wait, so you guys are 30 or you're about to be?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Last week, Tim turned 30.
Yeah, I did.
Happy 30th.
I appreciate it. Thank
you. Nothing is different.
Nope. I feel
exactly. Yeah. In 2008, I was actually in the Peace Corps, so I like missed it all because I was in Panama, remote area, and I wanted to watch The Dark Knight, but it was dubbed in Spanish, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that. So I like waited until I was done, and then I saw it on a laptop. So I've never seen it big, but I've seen it a handful of times. And back then, I was so into Nolan, like that movie and Inception, and I waited in line for 3 hours to have a good seat at the IMAX, the real IMAX, for Dark Knight Rises. So, yeah.
I've had like maybe I've talked about this before, but whatever. If people are still listening, they care, I guess. And I had such a weird arc with Nolan because like I was super into like I saw Insomnia in the theater when I was like 11. And I, for some reason, was like, I love this movie. I don't know. It was such a weird, like, and,
but that's when you saw Chungking Express, so you're...
that was a year or two after. I was like, that would be like, I think I was in middle school.
Very unique. Yeah. You were very unique.
Yeah, well, we have a mutual friend, Dan, who, was a fellow freak in that regard that I met in middle school. So, anyway, I was into Insomnia, and that got me, and I liked comics and Batman and stuff. So that, like, when Batman Begins came out, I was like, it's the Insomnia guy. I hadn't seen Memento at that point. I was just like, it's the Insomnia guy, and I loved it. Loved The Prestige when it came out.
Yeah.
Loved The Dark Knight, but then I quickly, after The Dark Knight, started to sour on Nolan because of his fans, which is a very very teenage thing to like be like, I care about what these other people think about. And then like, so throughout college, when I first met Levi, I like used to give him so much shit for liking Nolan too much or something. And I think I beat it out of him, and I feel bad about it now. And like,
because when you met me, I was like, because like I feel like Inception had its own group of fans. Like Inception was like,
well, I didn't like Inception. Like, that's the other thing.
Inception was a phenomenon all on its own, and that was something like I was like, how does he not like Inception? Inception's great. So
yeah, well, I actually that's one I still need to probably revisit, because like. Then what happened was when Dark Knight Rises came out, it got such a tepid reaction from a lot of people, and I really liked it. Like I was like, this is such a wild fucking movie. Like,
I didn't even see it.
You didn't even see it.
I was such a Dark Knight head. I was so into the Dark Knight that I was like, no, I'm not going to see it. So, but it was filmed in Pennsylvania too. I should have been all into it, like, but I wasn't at all.
But I beat it out of you. But then I saw Dark Knight Rises, and I was like, I actually really like the Dark Knight Rises. Like, and I think it's like, I actually still really like that movie. I mean, it's one of the most muddled movies philosophically I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. But who cares? It looks good.
Looks amazing, and I like when movies like even try to do anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, I can like, that at least makes me know that the person's like thinking, even if it's not clearly. But and then Interstellar, I was all in. Dunkirk, I was all in, and
All in.
Tenet, I'm all in. I'm
Oh,
completely
Tenet.
back on the board. Like I was like, this guy, he's my guy. I don't know.
His last 3 movies are my favorite 3 of his. So I'm back all in. Like just like you, I got off around Dark Knight Rises or earlier than that. Because of the fans, and then I like grew up a little bit more, and I realized, well, last year I saw all his movies in chronological order because Film Spotting podcast was doing it, and I was like, oh, I'll just like watch along.
Sure.
And I was just shocked because I was like, oh, Inception is actually good. Like all these movies, I was like, oh, I like them. I thought I kind of liked them, but I was just surprised how engrossed I was. And it's all Hans Zimmer and the editing and the cinematography. I don't care about like, the plot holes and the like muffled sound and the dialogue mixing.
I love the
dude.
muffled sound.
Turn it up. I got a sound bar. I just turned that shit all the way up. And then I'm just like Hans Zimmer. Like I was even watching Interstellar in my living room by myself at like 2 p.m. on like a Saturday. And I just turned it up and I was like literally fist pumping to the, like when the thing is like spinning and Matt Damon's trying to catch on to the thing and the music is like, do. I was just fist pumping. I was like, yes. I'm like, cinema. Yeah. So,
that's the
and
thing
Tenet's the same thing. I was just like so into it. And Dunkirk, I was like, it's like a silent film. It's just so beautiful. I just hope he like just keeps crawling up his own ass more and more.
Well, I saw something today about what what they're saying his next project's about, and it's about the Manhattan Project.
Oh, yeah, sounds great.
And what's his name? Killian Murphy's going to be Oppenheimer, the dude in charge.
I love that he stuck with Killian Murphy because I love Killian Murphy back in the 2000s, and I feel like he hasn't had the career I've wanted for him. But
those eyes, man, those eyes in Dunkirk, dude.
Yeah,
he's all like shell shocked. It's so good.
It's one of those things where like, when I was younger, like when I went through that phase where I reacted against the fans, part of it was like the arrogance of like, well, I know more about movies than these people, and I see that he's cribbing from like Michael Mann, and I see that he's doing like and all this stuff, which is true, but like then I like as you get older, you're like, well, first of all, like that doesn't really matter at all, but it's also like at this point he has there is like, you can see all the influences, but there's no one like him. Like he's like, it's like he is very singular. I mean, maybe he's kind of developed into that because his earlier films are a little more like straightforwardly, riffs. But these last 3, I don't know.
Now, Franco, you seem to be a big Zimmer fan. How do you feel about Ludwig in Tenet?
Is that a track name? Sorry.
Oh, it's the new composer. He didn't work with Hans on Tenet.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, right.
Ludwig Göransson did that.
Yeah. Yes. Who is the composer on The Mandalorian? So if you like Tenet, then you'll like The Mandalorian. So.
Yeah.
No, I'm back to Star Wars at all times.
Yeah, I've got another connection too. So I'm pretty bad about music and scores and stuff.
Yeah.
I know like when I'm vibing with it, and then there's but I can't tell you like what's happening musically. But I just know that Nolan likes his score to be like not like music you'd put on at a party, or you know what I mean? It's not like a symphony. It's not like there's like no. It's not. It's just like to move. It's just to move you. It's a roller coaster, and the score's pushing you faster.
He wants to dominate the viewer, which I love. And
I love that.
There's very few filmmakers that are willing to be that aggressive towards the audience while still trying to make like entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Like,
step on my neck, Nolan.
Well, like you talk about just driving the audience. My favorite time to listen to Nolan soundtracks are in the car. Like nothing is more dramatic than like driving and listening to that Zimmer score and just like thinking that, you know what, I'm gonna flip this car. Like
Yeah. I'm going to do a sharp left.
I'm going to flip this car, and then we're going to do it in reverse. We're going to be inverted, and then we're going to do it in reverse. So.
Yeah, that's so good. It's funny you mentioned about like Michael Mann and he's cribbing him, but my whole thing is like, yes, crib him. Yeah, there should be 10 directors cribbing Mann.
I wish Michael Mann.
It should be a subgenre, like all the Mann acolytes. Like, let's get more stuff. Just like with Hitchcock. Like, I love De Palma, and everybody's like, oh, he's just cribbing Hitchcock, and I'm like,
me crazy,
okay. Yeah. There should be so many people that crib Hitchcock, and it should be its own subgenre, and we shouldn't even be talking about it in that way anymore. Just more cribbing, please.
I think De Palma talked about in the documentary about him from a few years ago. He mentioned like that it's just weird that like this guy who everyone talks about and who's like created all the cinematic language that is like uniquely his, only because people don't copy it because they don't want to be accused of being copycats or whatever. And it's
right.
Like, yeah, and like the Nolan Mann thing, like, I'm a huge Michael Mann guy, and I love like Miami Vice especially. But it's and what Nolan, I think Nolan feels like the evolution of Mann if he had never discovered digital photography. So it's like kind of like you get like a not literally, obviously they have their own concerns, but it's like there's a very like, if you want like the Michael Mann of the 80s and 90s, like it's nice to have somebody that's doing that kind of film. Right. And like, because like I love I used to not like the digital like Michael Mann stuff when I was younger, but like I've grown to love all those movies. But like I love Black Hat. I even kind of actually really like. I'm a little mixed on The Keep. That's the only one I don't love. Like
The Keep could be so much better if they did a different cut or something.
I know, like it's the one that doesn't have a director's cut. It's crazy. But like even like I'm probably the only person who's like I think Public Enemies is really good, and I know,
dude, it's my second favorite.
Oh wow, really? Oh wow, that's crazy.
Third favorite. I think Thief and Heat are higher. But like, this last time I saw it, so 2 years ago, I saw all of his in order also. Like, that's just something I do sometimes. And I was just like it was the same thing, fist pumping, like, just like, look at this, like the immediacy of the digital photography. It's like A+ filmmaking with like a home movie aesthetic. I'm all there. Like, and people I feel like unfortunately get hung up on what's different and like against conventional wisdom, like with Ang Lee and the high frame rate. Like I think that could be really cool. And I think
I saw Gemini Man. I saw Gemini Man not in 120. I saw it in 60. It wasn't available in 120 where I live. And I mean, it wasn't exactly what he would have wanted me to see, but I thought it was like actually pretty amazing to watch. And the action was like even the non-action sequences, because like I think the standard like positive view of that is like, well, the action looks great, but like the regular stuff is like, but like even like when he's just riding into that boat at the beginning, I'm like, I see all these flies, and it's just like it's a entirely unique cinematic experience.
It's like
you have to rebuild the language.
Frame melts away, and I felt like I was there. So then during the action scene when one of the Will Smiths falls off his motorcycle in an early action scene, I literally jumped up in the air and I wanted to say, somebody get him an ambulance, because my brain thought it was real. Like I was just like so embarrassed and also surprised. I like, oh, this is exactly what he's talking about it just being a new language or a new way of doing cinema. And I was just I'm so glad I saw it in the theater.
Yeah, no, it was, I mean, I hope he, like, if he has to not do it again to make another movie, I hope he's willing to do that, because he's one of my favorite directors. But
I just want him to work more often.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I love nearly every movie he's ever made, with like except like Taking Woodstock, basically. Like Lust Caution, I rewatched again recently because the Blu-ray came out finally, and and that
so tense.
That movie is That's one of the most, like, I just feel like people didn't talk about it enough at the time, and it has like no legacy, it feels like, but
yeah,
I think that's like one of his masterpieces, so people should check out Lust Caution, and we should probably wrap up this episode.
This episode is a strange case indeed, folks.
Are you guys gonna do like Minecraft junior novels after this?
No,
because my son is. We're reading those out loud to him, and there's so much like fan fiction stuff out there. So.
Yeah, no. We've talked about if we continue the show, there's no promises that we ever will. But if we do, we're gonna move to the old '70s and early '80s Marvel Comics Star Wars series, which is another kind of like area that doesn't get discussed a lot of Star Wars. So
yeah, nice.
And
I have an idea for a podcast that Tim is not so hot on, and that is the Austin Powers. It is the Austin Powers Power Half Hour.
This is the problem. Okay, this is the
problem.
Where
we go deep on Austin Powers. We explore the soundtracks, the novelizations.
Austin Power Minute podcast.
Yeah, basically is what he wants to do. We talked about this early in the run of this show, and I thought it was a funny idea that I would be willing to at least maybe try out. But now I feel like in the last year or two, Austin Powers has been overexposed. Like
what are you talking about?
No. I think if you did it now, it would be striking while the iron's hot. Actually,
that's
Tim.
probably true. Yeah.
I think this is like the beginning of the revitalization.
And he's going to have that Netflix show that's probably going to be terrible.
Where he's going to play 7 characters.
Oh my god!
He is a man who refuses to be himself. That is who Mike Myers is. Like
Johnny Depp too.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
We could watch Mordecai and talk about how Austin Powers is like the true like this is like Mordecai doesn't exist without Austin Powers. So
yeah, you guys could compare.
What a legacy.
Well, I want to break down the movies by the scene selection on the DVD, so we go like scene by scene, and that's a whole episode. So
the minutes.
No, I would for sure subscribe.
Yeah, baby.
Well, and then each episode you have a different guest, and you talk about whatever's going on there, and you could do like one episode will be on Tom Arnold because he has a cameo. So like you can just do so much.
Well, I want to interview Michael McDonald, the actor from Mad TV, because he plays 2 different roles in the movies. Like he's in the first one and in the second one as 2 completely different characters.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Well, you got to save it for the show if we ever do it. So let's
a Burt Bacharach episode.
Well, I would love to do a Burt Bacharach.
There's a video game too, so we got to talk about the.
We can talk about the Madonna song, which is.
Mm-hmm.
A whole thing, and that whole era of Madonna is fascinating.
Fell in love with a beautiful stranger.
Ray of Light, man.
Heather Graham, so much Heather Graham talk. Elizabeth Hurley, you could do a Bedazzled, side.
Yeah, and then
we can watch the
Lion King.
We can watch the Favreau Lion King because of Beyonce. That's where we can really take this. So.
Never gonna watch that movie. The other thing about that Marvel Star Wars podcast, by the way, Levi, and I don't know why I'm telling you this on air, but I came up with an idea for that I think is great. If I also, they have the entire archives of Starlog online for free, like scanned in. And so if I looked at the corresponding month for each issue, we could follow the news about the original trilogy as it came out. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be fascinating. I feel like
that's really
that's
good,
like a good. And honestly, I'm saying this. If we don't do it, one of our listeners feel free to steal that idea. That's a good Star Wars podcast idea. I feel like give us
reminds me.
Give us a year, but you can steal it after a year.
That reminds me of there was this YouTube channel called The Great War, and it was 100 years after. Like to the day. So like the first day of World War I, 100 years exactly after, they talked about what happened that day. And so so the whole show was like, 4 years long or something. And like each week they like did what was happening that week 100 years ago, and it was super interesting, and it sounds kind of like that, but instead of World War One, news about Star Wars coming out.
Yeah, just as deep, just as something I still will not tell people that I do. So.
Well, it is.
You guys, dude, this show's very entertaining. Like some shows, like there's a lot of shows. I mean, like podcasts where, like on paper and what they talk about, it's like my jam, but there's no chemistry. They're not engaging, and I fall off. And then there's other stuff where I don't even know what they're really talking about that well, but like there is, something there, and I keep coming back. And, I don't know anything about Star Wars Junior novels, but you guys are, fun. You guys enjoy each other's company. You laugh a lot, which is contagious. So it's definitely like something you guys should be proud of, and you should just, splatter all over your personal social media.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Aw, thank you. So, all right, let's bring this back to Strange Case.
And let's do our final grades here.
Hang on, I do. Before that, I want to read the plot synopsis of the next book of the sequel. Okay. All right. In the second book, Dwight is suspended and faces expulsion for an apparent threat made by Origami Yoda, and may possibly be sent to the Correctional and Remedial Education Facility, a reform school for bad kids. So that is a threat.
A nice range of teachers in this book, by the way. Like some that you're like, that's a good teacher, handles that situation well. Like the thing with the Shakespeare head that shattered or whatever.
Right.
And then there's other teachers where it's like there's no like horrible teachers, but there's some teachers where you're like, yeah, that's a bad way to handle that situation.
Yeah. Like, they're checked out.
The one advice Origami Yoda gives, in my opinion, was like terrible advice, was like the Cheeto hog story, where like the kid, like they're on a field trip and the kid they're told they can't buy snacks, but the teacher doesn't say anything about vending machines. So the one kid gets Cheetos, and then the teacher yells at all the kids, says you can't have them.
That's the one I was thinking of.
And he's like, all the kids are like, share those Cheetos with me, and the kid's like, it's so small, so he just ate the whole thing.
And then everyone calls him a Cheeto hog.
Cheeto hog, yeah.
Origami
which you can't
Yoda.
live with. The kid should just honestly live with. There's nothing wrong with being a Cheeto hog. Come on. And then Origami Yoda then tells him he has to buy bags of Cheetos for everybody in the class, and they have to be the big bags, not little bags. And this cost this kid over $60.
He's 11. Who has $60 when you're 11?
When you're 11, yeah. Nobody has that kind of money when you're that young.
But that's how traumatizing it is to like be known by everybody as Cheeto hog and just having a bad rep. Like you'll do anything. So it was pretty like badass. I mean, he got in trouble for it and stuff.
I think it was
became a legend.
I agree. If it weren't for the cost of it, I think it is like good advice, actually. Like, even though like he gets in trouble or whatever, but like it's going to be a thing that him and several of his classmates remember when they're, talking on podcasts in 30 years about Star Wars books. They're going to be like, I had this. They'll remember an experience from junior high. So anyway,
all right, let's get into our midichlorian count.
So we grade them 1 to 10 midichlorians, or if you loved it, it is what I'm blanking on.
Conceived in midichlorians.
It's conceived in midichlorians, like Anakin Skywalker. So it's like it's off the charts. Like so I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but anyway, I thought this was like solid, like a pretty good kids book, and on those terms, I'd give it like an 8 midichlorians, something like that.
All right. It's solid. It's fine. It's silly at times. 7 midichlorians.
You have a
sure. So 5 is not neutral then.
5 is like average. Like
okay, yeah.
I guess.
I'll give it a 6. It was a kind of a slog sometimes. I felt like I read better books like that as a English teacher. I try to read books in my classroom. But yeah, it was pretty harmless. I just, I thought there was going to be, the Force in it and Jedi. So
and we should have prepared you more for what it was.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, here is the book you will be reading. Like, we didn't even give you options.
You were like, here's the book. And I'm like, oh, all right. Some real nerdy stuff. All right. Like, there's going to be like cloaks. There's going to be, hovercrafts. And then it was like middle school drama. And I was like, oh no, I have so much of that.
Oh, yeah, I understand. Anyway, so
we are in. I'm gonna coin this now. We are in the ladder rung club. 6, 7, 8. We're all
Nice.
each on a rung of the ladder. So
That's good.
So anyway, before we leave and sign off here, I just want to say next week we're gonna not have a regular episode because Levi is going to be on the road. So,
I don't want to read.
Fair enough.
I'm just telling the listeners.
I'll say for the listeners, I have a very special episode planned, and it's not just me saying what movies I've watched recently for 5 minutes. It's like actually going to be a pretty cool episode. It's with a former guest of the show, someone who's been invoked a lot, who actually probably would only come on the show with just me and without you, Levi.
Yeah, because we're foes apparently now.
You're beefing about Jungle Cruise. Our friend Sam McCauley is going to be on the show.
Oh, snap.
So
I thought it was foe of the show, your brother.
Well, he might also.
I don't know. He might be a foe.
But then you said
foe.
Sam McCauley, and it was like, the Holy Grail over here.
So we're going to talk. He's been reading the new Jedi Order books, rereading them, and I pick him up from work and sometimes, and he has been talking my ear off about it. And I'm just like, you know what? Let's just record a podcast about this where I interview you about those books, because we're never going to talk about them on the show because they're for adults. We don't read books written for adults.
Yeah, we don't read books written for adults or babies. Only young kids. That's our
younglings.
No, we don't even read young adult books. It has to be the young readers designation. That's our official. Anyways, so
all right.
With Sam, I want you to goad so many hot takes from him. I just want to hear all his opinions.
I'm gonna try.
I'm really excited.
And we're watching The Mummy together. I haven't seen it in 20 years, and The Mummy is one of his favorite movies. And a podcast that I listen to is doing something with it. And
don't be a coward. Watch all 3.
I'm gonna watch them all. But I just want to watch that one ahead of their episode coming out. So I'm gonna. Because I haven't seen it in 20 years, and he just found out that I hadn't seen it in 20 years, and he's just he's furious about it. So
it really holds up too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I saw it last year for the first time in 20 years. Very fun.
Jungle Cruise wishes it was The Mummy, if you ask me.
Well, like I said, if Gore Verbinski directed Jungle Cruise, it would be a masterpiece. That is my official take on it.
So who did direct it?
Jean-Michel Serra. Who's actually a pretty good director.
House of Wax
Dallas Buyers Club? That guy?
No, he did a bunch of Liam Neeson movies. And,
okay. Yeah,
he's actually pretty good.
Yeah. He did is it the snow one? Did he do the snow one?
No,
is that Megaton?
I don't know who did that one, but he did Nonstop, the plane one, which I think the plane one is underrated. That one's.
I don't think I've seen any of those.
He's a solid director that I could appreciate. Jungle Cruise doesn't have much of his personality really, but it it's what it is. It feels like a Pirates script that was rewritten for The Rock. So
there was this whole article on Vulture something about how come movies are afraid to have Rock be romantic lead, with And so if you and Sam can talk about The Rock's sex appeal and sex life on screen,
I would love to.
That would be very good.
I certainly have takes on The Rock as a movie star, but I feel like I feel like the tide has turned on that anyway, so I feel like it's not as hot as it used
I know
to be.
he just keeps blowing it. I feel like.
Yeah, like
my wife and I had this crazy Mandela effect about the movie. All right, so he has become very bald. All right, it's so like a shiny bald, and we were talking about, man, he is so hairless, and then both of us were like, did he have eyebrows in the movie? Like, when I recall thinking about the movie, The Rock has no eyebrows, who is a man famous for his eyebrows back when he was a wrestler, all right? He was the people's eyebrow. So anyway, it got to the point where we had to Google stills
He's
for the
like
movie.
Whoopi Goldberg.
we had to prove to ourselves that he had eyebrows in the movie. So, but it was very strange. But we both had this same feeling, like he had no eyebrows in the film. So that's how hairless The Rock has become.
I don't know. It's what it is. I liked it better. I mean, but everything's gotten a boost this year for me. So, like, even things that aren't that good, I kind of enjoy it because I'm like, I'm back at the movies.
Well,
do you know he eats 10 pounds of cod a day?
That's like that Wahlberg thing where he like gets up at 3 a.m. and schedules.
Oh, no, yeah, dude, his Instagram of him like working out in the gym at like 4 a.m. and then he's like, you know, I eat 10 pounds of fish a day, so like I need to like work it off. And I'm just like, dude, you're gonna die. Like, your heart's the same size all the time. Like, how can it take it?
I love that.
All these wrestlers die, right, in their 50s, and he's
they die. Yeah, and like Rock too. I saw some photos of him at the red carpet, and he's like not looking good. Like, he's grinding too hard, in my opinion. The Rock needs to calm down. Like, he doesn't need to be so big anymore. All right, he can.
That's the
slim
problem.
out a little bit.
I don't know.
Like, him and Tom Cruise should just go serious actor.
Oh God, yeah, I wish. God, that's my greatest dream as a movie fan, honestly. Like, even though I actually love the Mission Impossible movies, but
I do too. But like with Stallone, I was like, oh, he's gonna do Copland, you know, once he hits like 60, and he's like pushing 80, and he's still doing all that
that's
stuff.
The thing.
It's
like every
Expendables 4 coming, baby. We're
Stallone
getting Expendables 4.
Stallone is driving me crazy every time because it's like after Copland, you're like, okay, like he's moving into like, oh, I'm going to be like the actor I was in the 70s. Like, I'm going to do that kind of thing now. And then it's like, nope, he keeps doing action movies.
They should have given him an Oscar. Then it would have happened.
Then even like Rocky Balboa, which I think now like has a pretty negative reputation, but like at the time was pretty well received, and people were like, oh, he's good in it. And like that, and like he's also old, so he should like move into a serious actor. And then Creed, he gets nominated for an Oscar, and it's like, I don't know. It's whatever. Yeah. And he announced that movie with Adam Driver that he was going to direct that sounded like a drama. I mean, who knows how good that would be, but he announced that like 5 years ago and nothing's happened with it. So,
dude, I think Sam's going to have some takes if he hears this. Because he loves Stallone, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah, well, we can talk about Stallone.
There's a story, friend of the one-time friend of the show, Brooke White, was his college roommate.
He's still a friend of the show.
Well, he was only on the show once. He's probably never coming back.
One-time friend of the show.
They were college roommates, and when Brooke moved into his college dorm, Sam was already moved in, but he wasn't in the room. So Brooke's like looking around the room, seeing like what's there, and all he sees is a framed photo of Sylvester Stallone. And that's like his first take of him is this framed photo.
Nice. Oh, that's so nice. I love it. It's fascinating.
We really do need to wrap this up.
All right. Until the books are due back.
Yeah.
The library is closed.
Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Peretic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by The Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Padawan Library is copyright 2021. Tim May and Levi Peretic. All rights reserved.